AEW did not begin with a press conference. Not a logo reveal, not a TV deal, not a billionaire signing a check. It began years earlier inside a wrestling faction in Japan that was never supposed to create anything besides good matches and cool merch. Bullet Club did not create AEW. I want to be upfront about that. AEW was built by Tony Khan's infrastructure, a TNT deal, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and years of roster building. But if AEW has one spiritual origin point, one mythology that runs underneath everything, before the company ever officially existed, it is Bullet Club. Without Bullet Club, there is no The Elite. Without The Elite, there is no Being The Elite. Without Being The Elite, there is no All In, and without All In, AEW does not happen the way it did. This is the story of how a wrestling faction in Japan accidentally became the incubator for the first real American alternative to WWE in 20 years. May 3rd, 2013. Fukuoka Wrestling Dontaku. After fully turning on Ryosuke Taguchi and embracing the darker side of himself, Prince Devitt stands alongside Carl Anderson, Bad Luck Fale, and Tama Tonga. The Bullet Club is born. Now, if you know Devitt at all, you probably know him as Finn Balor, the guy in WWE with the demon paint. But before all of that, Devitt was one of the most compelling performers in Japan. A junior heavyweight with natural charisma that felt bigger than the role that he had been given. The concept behind Bullet Club was straightforward enough. A stable of foreign heel wrestlers playing villains in New Japan. Anti-establishment, rule-breaking, arrogant. Every wrestling company in history has had some version of that. But Bullet Club had something that most factions do not have, an identity that people actually wanted to carry around with them. The first Bullet Club shirt sold out within 2 hours of being offered. That is not just a merchandise deal. That is the first sign that something different is happening. People were not just watching Bullet Club matches. They were buying into what the Bullet Club represented. Outsider energy, rebellion, coolness. The faction played by its own rules while the promotions scrambled to keep up with them. That is the first ingredient. Before The Elite, before Being The Elite, before All In, before AEW, Bullet Club taught wrestling fans that a faction can be something that you actually wanted to associate with and not just watch. AJ Styles joins Bullet Club at Invasion Attack 2014, and less than a month later he beats Kazuchika Okada at Wrestling Dontaku to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And I want to explain why that matters beyond just the title change. By 2014, AJ Styles was probably the most respected wrestler in the world among hardcore fans who were paying attention. He had spent years in TNA being excellent, while most mainstream audiences had no real access to him. He had done Ring of Honor, he had done tours in Japan. The internet wrestling world knew exactly who he was. Everyone else was just catching up. When AJ joins Bullet Club and starts headlining New Japan Pro Wrestling, something shifts in who is paying attention to this faction. Before this, Bullet Club was a New Japan story, a compelling one but contained within one promotion that most Western audiences were not actively following. They had to go out of their way to find it. AJ Styles was that bridge that made it easier. He was the connection point between TNA fans, Ring of Honor fans, New Japan fans, and the growing audience of Western internet wrestling fans who were slowly drifting away from WWE and looking for something that felt more real. Someone they already had emotional investment in was now wearing a Bullet Club shirt and headlining shows in Japan. That made Bullet Club matter to people who had never watched it. Under AJ, Bullet Club dominates New Japan. The shirts start showing up at WWE events, at independent shows, at venues that have nothing to do with New Japan. Fans were wearing the symbol in buildings where the company did not even exist. He leaves for WWE in 2016, arriving at the Royal Rumble to one of the most electric crowd reactions I've ever seen. The reaction was years of pent-up mainstream recognition finally arriving all at once. And a significant part of what built that recognition was the time he spent leading Bullet Club into places wrestling had never reached before. When AJ Styles leaves for WWE in 2016, Kenny Omega orchestrates his exit at New Year's Dash 2016. He takes leadership leadership of Bullet Club. And this is where everything actually changes. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks did not operate like traditional wrestling characters. They operated like content creators who also happened to be elite wrestlers. They understood the internet in a way that most wrestlers their age did not. They understood memes, personalities, irony, self-awareness, merchandise, and the idea that if you could make someone genuinely like you as a person, they'll follow you anywhere. The Young Bucks had been building this for years on the independent circuit, working for small crowds in small buildings, sometimes fewer than 100 people, growing a fan base not through TV exposure but through direct relationships, social media, and the sheer force of their own personality. They were running their own merchandise before independent wrestling merchandise was a mainstream concept. Kenny had the same understanding, combined with the in-ring ability to carry conversations at the very top of the sport. His matches against Kazuchika Okada from 2017 onwards are some of the most acclaimed wrestling matches in history. They turned Kenny Omega into someone that even fans who had not watched New Japan wanted to watch. Not because a promotion told them to, because the quality and the conversation around it was undeniable. Together they became the Elite, a subgroup within the Bullet Club that became larger than the faction it came from. And the Elite did something that the Bullet Club had not fully done. Bullet Club created fans of a symbol. The Elite created fans of specific, irreplaceable people. You were not just following the group, you were following Kenny, Matt, Nick. You were invested in them individually. That distinction is gonna matter enormously when it comes time to launch a wrestling company. In 2016, the Young Bucks started a YouTube channel called Being the Elite. It begins as a travel vlog, two brothers driving between indie shows filming themselves. The kind of thing that could have stayed small and been completely fine at that level. It did not stay small. Over the following 2 years, Being the Elite had become something nobody had really done in wrestling before. A weekly metafictional comedy series with serialized storylines that played out in the spaces between actual matches. Kayfabe and reality lines blurred deliberately. Characters from different promotions share the same frame, jokes get established and paid off months later. There is genuine emotional drama mixed with absurd comedy. It feels like a show that was made by people who loved television as much as they loved wrestling. When Cody Rhodes appears for the first time in episode 34, the cast has a new dynamic. He brings a different kind of energy. When the tension between him and Kenny starts building in episode 62, the audience is already invested enough that a fictional falling out between real wrestlers feels genuinely dramatic. When someone holds up a sign saying Bullet Club is fine during a period of in-show civil war, it is simultaneously a meme, a wrestling story, and a real emotional moment. The show works because it does something specific. It trains the fans to follow wrestlers, not promotions. By 2018, a significant audience is watching Kenny Omega in New Japan, the Young Bucks in Ring of Honor, Cody wherever he's booked, Hangman wherever he's booked, and all of them on Being the Elite every week. They are not fans of a specific company. They are fans of specific people and the world that has been built around them. So when episode 132 of Being the Elite comes out and the AEW logo appears on screen for the first time, it does not feel like a corporate announcement from a company you've never heard of. It feels like the next episode. That is something that cannot be manufactured. It took years to build, and it is the reason that AEW's first audience was not a cold audience. You probably know Cody Rhodes as the WWE champion, the guy who finished the story at WrestleMania 40, the guy who has been the face of WWE's main event scene for the last few years. Before all of that, Cody was Stardust, a character he had been playing in the WWE for a few years. Face paint, a cosmic gimmick, increasingly underused while the company focused elsewhere. There's a story he has told about a young fan who came to meet him at a show and he had no idea that Stardust used to be Cody Rhodes. Did not know about the championships, the history, the family name, just knew the character. Cody said that was the turning point. He asked for his release, WWE granted it, he left. What happens next is one of the most interesting reinventions in modern wrestling history. He drops the paint, he becomes the American Nightmare, he joins Ring of Honor, he starts working with New Japan, and tags into the Bullet Club ecosystem. He wins the Ring of Honor World Championship. He is wrestling in buildings that hold a couple of hundred people one week and the Tokyo Dome the next. He is doing all of it with the creative control he never could have had in the WWE. He joins being the elite and the show gains a different kind of momentum. Where Kenny and the Bucks brought internet fluency and culture, Cody brings ambition. The feeling that this thing could actually challenge the wrestling world at a meaningful level rather than just exist at the fringes of it. And then in May 2017, wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer tweets that Ring of Honor probably could not sell out a 10,000 seat arena anytime soon. Cody sees that tweet and he responds publicly. He will take that bet. That response from a wrestler who had left WWE a year earlier and was working indie shows sets in motion the chain of events that leads directly to All In, which leads directly to AEW. September 1st, 2018, Hoffman State, Illinois, the Sears Center, All In. 11,263 people in that building. The largest non-WWE or WWE crowd in America since 1993. Tickets sell out in under 30 minutes. Around 50,000 pay-per-view buys. The show is promoted under the Ring of Honor banner, with Cody and the Bucks personally putting up financial guarantees and taking on the risk of it all. Before All In, the idea that the elite could sustain a major wrestling company was theoretical. You could believe it, you could feel it in the audience numbers, in the merchandise sales, and the YouTube views, but there was no single piece of hard evidence that you could point to. All In was that evidence. There is a real audience, a paying one willing to buy tickets and travel in significant numbers for a wrestling show built around people they had found through New Japan, Ring of Honor, and an independent YouTube series. The demand existed. It had existed for a while. All In just gave it a building and a date and a pay-per-view to prove it. The card reflects exactly what the elite and their world had built. Kenny Omega, Cody, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, Marty Scurll, the overlapping world of New Japan, Ring of Honor, and the independent scene all on one card. Multiple promotions collaborating on a show that never could have happened without the relationships that Being the Elite had spent 2 years depicting. All In is not AEW. It does not have Tony Khan's money or a TV deal or former company structure, but it is the proof of concept that makes AEW viable. Before All In, the question is whether the audience is real. After All In, there is no question. 2 months before All In takes place, Tony Khan has already made his first call to Matt Jackson. Tony Khan is a lifelong wrestling fan whose family owns the Jacksonville Jaguars and Fulham Football Club. He understands sports business, he has relationships with Warner Media executives, he has money that is not yet attached to a wrestling company, and he has been watching what the elite have been doing for years. He reaches out to Matt Jackson. He makes the case that the elite are the hottest act in wrestling and that he can provide what the movement does not have: infrastructure, a television deal, long-term company structure, the difference between a great movement and a sustainable business. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega pass on significant offers from WWE and they sign with Tony Khan. Cody joins, Hangman joins, and then come the legitimacy signings. Chris Jericho choosing to leave WWE and become AEW's world champion, Jon Moxley walking out of WWE and showing up at Double or Nothing, to a reaction that tells you everything about the credibility that AEW had built before its first match aired on television. AEW launches on May 25th, 2019, Double or Nothing at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And the people in that building are not a cold audience. They are not people who saw an advertisement and decided to check out a new wrestling company. They are people who had been watching Being the Elite for 3 years. People who had bought Bullet Club shirts in 2014. People who had been at All In. People who followed Kenny Omega through New Japan and the Young Bucks through every indie show they could access. Tony Khan provided the company, but the emotional infrastructure was already there. Bullet Club created the symbol. The Elite created the relationship. Being the Elite created loyalty. All In created proof. And Tony Khan created the company. Here's the thing about AEW that I think tends to get lost when people talk about its history. AEW arrived feeling like it had history, not because it manufactured one, but because it genuinely inherited one. Wrestlers who walked out at Double or Nothing carried years of stories with them. New Japan matches that made Kenny Omega feel like the best wrestler in the world to a whole generation of fans. Ring of Honor title reigns that meant something. Independent shows in buildings that built real human connections with fans who were paying attention. A YouTube series that made fans feel like they knew these people personally. And a faction in Japan that started as a foreign group of heels and became something nobody planned for. The most important thing that the Bullet Club did was not win championships or produce viral moments. It was teach fans to follow people. Not companies, not promotions, not brands, people. And when the people that they had been following for years finally had a company of their own, the fans knew exactly where to go. AEW did not begin with a press conference. It began with a heel turn in Fukuoka, Japan in 2013. It just took a few years to find out what it was building towards. And thank you for watching.